Are you tired of the AP and the coaches poll? Are you looking for a set of rankings that makes sense, is unbiased, and is actually based on what happens on the field? Then you've come to the right place. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert as we are ready to break down our Week 7 GE Top 25. A set of rankings that, again, is unbiased, that makes sense, and is truly based on the events and the results that happen on the field each and every week. And before we jump into our top 25, guys, again, we want to welcome you to the Gridiron Expert. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country over on our website for one of the lowest prices in the entire country. They are beating out over 80% of the national analysts. We're hitting over 60% of our spread picks, 82% of our money line bets. Sign up for those picks today and become a part of our GE Nation over on thegridironexpert.com. All right, let's get down to business, guys. Again, we love doing our GE rankings. It's a relatively new segment we do here on the show, but man, we love doing it because we hate the AP poll. We hate the coaches poll, and we're going to hate the playoff poll when it comes out here in a few weeks as well. But we're here to break down every single one of these teams up here and to justify, explain why we have these teams ranked where they are. So coming over here to our first column in the top 10, the top 5 remain unchanged. We did not see any shifts there. Alabama remains at number 1. Some think that Ohio State should maybe have jumped the Crimson Tide because Alabama narrowly escaped Texas A&M. And what I say to that is the fact that Alabama still beat Texas A&M despite all the mistakes they made, and they did it with a backup quarterback. I do not think that game would have been as close had Bryce Young been playing. Still give credit to Alabama for winning that game over the Aggies. So the Crimson Tide stay at number 1. Ohio State at 2 after their 49-20 win over Michigan State. Georgia at 3 following their 32-point win against Auburn. Clemson at 4 following the big win at Boston College 31-3. And then Michigan overcame a slow start but beat Indiana 31-10. Those are our top 5, have remained unchanged from last week. Tennessee, though, is the first team that saw a little bit of movement. The Volunteers up 2 spots, from 8th to 6th in our rankings following their big win over LSU. No team just struts into Death Valley, regardless if it's in the day or at night, and wins by 27. This Tennessee team is dang good. Tennessee beat a top 25 LSU team. They were ranked 25th. We did not think they were that worthy of a top 25 spot. AP did. Clearly, they were not. Tennessee annihilated them 40-13. The Volunteers over 500 yards of offense in that game. Big showdown this Saturday against Alabama, but the Volunteers guys are legit. We bumped up 6-6 over Oklahoma State, who we dropped to 7th. We felt that Tennessee's victory over LSU, by especially that margin, was better than Oklahoma State, who pulled away way later than expected over Texas Tech, only winning that game 41-31. The defense, especially the secondary, still a major concern for the Cowboys this year. Still a top 10 team. They got to fix that. Cowboys down to 7th, and then some slight movement at 8 and 9. Oregon up a spot following their win over Arizona. What many thought could have been an upset out in the desert, Oregon crushed that early. Blew out the Wildcats, never really faltered in that game. 580 yards of offense. The Ducks are rolling. They are playing some good football ever since their loss to Georgia in Week 1. Penn State up a spot. They didn't play this week, had a bye week, but they will be taking on Michigan this upcoming Saturday in Week 7, so a huge top 10 showdown between the Nittany Lions and the Wolverines. And then UCLA, that is the biggest riser in our rankings. The Bruins going from 21st all the way to 10th in our rankings. And some may say that's too high, that's way too far. I disagree. You know, UCLA proved something to me on Saturday. It wasn't just a matter that they beat Utah, it was how they did it. They won by 10. Probably should have been by 17. They threw an 80-yard pick 6 with under a minute left. Game was out of reach, whatever. UCLA guys had an answer for everything Utah threw at them, but more than anything, Utah didn't have an answer for anything that UCLA threw at them. The Bruins almost 500 yards of offense. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, 299 through the air. Zach Charbonnet, 198 on the ground. The offense was clicking. The defense was able to shut down Cam Rising in that attack, forcing some turnovers, getting some key stops. This UCLA team, guys, is off to their best start since 2005. They're 6-0. And it's really a three-team race between Oregon, UCLA, and USC in the Pac-12 right now. Not just for the Pac-12 title, but for maybe who can go to the playoff from the Pac-12. The Bruins, to me, are legit, and they're worthy of that top 10 spot over a team like USC, TCU, or even Ole Miss. I think they're worthy of that spot over USC, who defeated Washington State 30-14 this last week. Washington State was a top 25 team in our eyes. We had them in at 25 last week. But again, that win, impressive for the Trojans for sure. Actually, we saw the Trojans moving up a spot in our rankings, still 12th to 11th. Still, the Trojans to us really haven't played anybody that great. Played a mediocre Stanford team. Played a mediocre Oregon State team who they barely defeated. They beat Arizona State, who, yes, we know beat Washington, but still, an Arizona State team that's still 2-4. And then they beat, obviously, this last week in Washington State. Good win, but UCLA's victory by 10 points over a higher-ranked team in Utah, worthy of that jump. So these two teams very, very close, but we like the Bruins over the Trojans here. Definitely like TCU at number 12. Guys, the Horned Frogs are legit. They went on the road, took down number 19 Kansas, 38-31. Yes, Kansas lost their starting quarterback. Yes, some questionable calls at the end, but that doesn't defeat the take away from the fact that Max Duggan plays some phenomenal football. TCU got the stops when they needed, and Quentin Johnson was about dang near unstoppable. 14 receptions for over 200 yards. Unbelievable performance. So TCU, guys, all the way up to 12. It's really a two-team battle to me in the Big 12 right now between TCU and Oklahoma State. Watch out between these two guys. This is going to be a fun matchup between the Cowboys and the Horned Frogs. Ole Miss in at 13. They dropped 2 spots, not because we think they're bad, but obviously because of the rise of UCLA, because we also value TCU and USC's victory more than Ole Miss's victory over Vanderbilt. Yes, they won that game 52-28, but they were trailing that game at halftime, trailed by 10 twice in that game, both in the first half. They turned on the burners, turned on the jets in the second half, but not the best performance from Ole Miss. Definitely felt that UCLA, USC, TCU's performance is much better. They jump. Ole Miss, though, still a top 15 team. Wake Forest remains at 14th following their 35-point victory over Army. Not as exciting or high-scoring as their matchup last year, but Wake Forest still playing some exceptional football, still only a one-loss team. They come in at 14, above NC State, who dropped 2 spots. NC State, again, still a solid team. May have lost Devin Leary for the rest of the season, or at least for a few weeks. Horrible injury to him in that win over Florida State. The Wolfpack lucky to have survived this game. Winning against the Seminoles 19-17. Florida State choosing to go for a touchdown in the final minutes instead of settling for the potential game-winning field goal. Threw an interception in the end zone. They ran the fake punt that they easily would have picked up, but the punter decided to punt it past the line of scrimmage. Ended up setting up a North Carolina State field goal. The Seminoles beat themselves in a way. Questionable decisions and poor mistakes cost them that game, despite the loss of Devin Leary in the second half. NC State, still a top 15 team in our eyes. Still a dang good team, especially defensively. But the offensive woes are going to catch up to them. And that's why we dropped them 2 spots. Big win. But obviously, the people ahead of them had some more quality wins. And you have to watch out for what NC State's going to be dealing with going forward. Mississippi State remaining at 16th following their 23-point victory over Arkansas. A big win, not as good of a win as it could have been had Arkansas been ranked or been living up to their expectations. Again, the teams that jumped Mississippi State, like a TCU, like a UCLA, that's the reason why the Bulldogs remained at 16th and they really didn't go much higher. 17th, Utah. Self-explanatory. We talked about them. They were 7th in our rankings last week. We had them as a top 10 team. We were high on the Utes. Fell short. They dropped 10 spots following their poor performance against UCLA. So UCLA rising 11th, Utah dropping 10. Big difference there. Biggest riser was UCLA. Biggest dropper was Utah. The Utes down to number 17. Still have an opportunity to rise back up, though, with a home game against USC on Saturday. So watch out for that game. Major Pac-12 implications at stake. Bigger now, though, for USC than it is for Utah. Kansas State in at 18th. They moved up 2 spots following their defensive slugfest against Iowa State, beating the Cyclones 10-9 in Ames. But Kansas State getting the job done. They are finding ways to win. They lost to Tulane. They'd be much higher had they not lost to Tulane a few weeks ago, but that is in the rearview mirror. Big win over Oklahoma a few weeks ago. Obviously now defeating Iowa State. I mean, the Wildcats are rolling. They are playing some dang good football. 18th in the country for us, right above their in-state rival in Kansas, who we only dropped one spot to 19th. Again, some will say, why only one spot? Why not further? Again, give credit to Kansas for the adversity they faced in losing their starting quarterback early in that game. Jason Bean playing great ball. Questionable calls at the end of that game that could have sent the game to overtime if Kansas scored. They still would have had to find the end zone. That wasn't a guarantee. But when you factor in how well they played with the backup quarterback, when you factor in what I do believe were questionable calls at the end of the game, I still think Kansas is a top 25 team. I still think they're a top 20 team and didn't justify dropping them too far in the rankings. We only dropped them one spot following their loss to TCU. Baylor up 2 spots. Had a bye week. Just the teams that lost ahead of them, the movement, saw them rise a couple. Same with Syracuse in at 21st. They rose up 2 spots just because of the teams that lost ahead of them and things that kind of happened. They didn't even play, but they got to go up 2. So kudos to the Bears and the Orange. Both have some big games coming up this week. And then we've got a couple newcomers in here. Kentucky dropped 23rd. We're going to get to the newcomers. Kentucky dropped to 23rd from 15th to 8th following their loss to South Carolina. But again, factoring in that Will Levis did not play in that game. Kentucky probably would have dropped out of the rankings for us had Will Levis played and they still lost by 10. But Kentucky down their starting quarterback, made us a bunch of key mistakes, fumbled on the first play of the game, had the missed field goal, just so many things that they beat themselves on. To me, still a fringe top 25 team, keeping them in at 23rd for now. Back-to-back losses, though, for the Wildcats. The 3 newcomers, though, Purdue into the rankings at 22nd. Give credit to the Boilermakers, maybe the best team in the Big Ten West, guys. Back-to-back road victories now at Minnesota, won that one last week, and then this last Saturday, defeating Maryland 31-29 on the road. So to get back-to-back road wins over good teams, extremely impressive for Purdue. Their only losses to Syracuse by 3 and to Penn State by 4. Purdue is a much better team, and no one's giving them enough credit. Purdue in at 22nd. Kentucky, we just mentioned. And Illinois and North Carolina finally finding the rankings. Give credit to the Fighting Illini. They had an extremely long top 25 drought, just like Kansas. Well, Brett Bielema's squad is in now. 5-1 on the year for Illinois, defeating Iowa 9-6. The showdown between Purdue and Illinois could determine who wins the Big Ten West. That's how good the Fighting Illini are. Phenomenal defensively. Didn't show much offensively, but it was against Iowa. Cut them some slack. They dropped 34 points on Wisconsin the week prior in Madison. They can run the ball extremely well. The defense is phenomenal. Watch out for the Fighting Illini. And then North Carolina also in at 5-1, beat Miami 27-24. Their only loss this year was to a Notre Dame team that is improving and took down a ranked BYU team last week. Give credit to North Carolina thriving behind the new QB and Drake May. 5-1. People are sleeping on them. With the road win over Miami, enough to propel them into the top 25, right on the edge. Let's see if they can stay in there. Most of our new top 25 teams rarely stay in there for long. Can Purdue, Illinois, or UNC change that trend going forward into the second half of the season? So there you go, guys. There's our Gridiron Expert Top 25 heading into Week 7 of this college football season. Again, we don't expect everybody to agree, but we are ready to hear your rankings, we're ready to hear your thoughts, and we are ready for another huge weekend of college football. Huge matchups, Alabama and Tennessee. We've got Michigan and Penn State. We've got NC State and Syracuse. We've got a lot of big-time matchups coming our way in Week 7. So if you thought the first half was great, just get ready because the second half is going to kick off with a bang. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Make sure to check those out. Sign up for those today. Some of the best picks in the country for one of the lowest marks in the country, and we want you to take advantage of them and to become a part of our GE Nation. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.